Bills, Dolphins, divisional
Good one.
matchup,
It's a
playoff
good
teams,
one.
teams that could be in the hunt for the top of this division. This is a serious matchup here. So let's start with your matchup that matters. We've got some injuries on both sides. Unfortunately, that's a part of the game now that the season is kicked off. But what do you think about this one? What's a matchup that matters here that you want to focus on?
Yeah, I'm watching Miami's pass rush against Josh Allen because when kept clean in week one, Josh Allen was 16 of 21, 188 yards, two touchdowns, no interceptions. This could be the Josh Allen show if Miami does not get pressure on him. And uh, they had 9 pressures last week, which is the
Mm-hmm.
tied for the sixth fewest in the NFL. So we haven't been able to see them kind of get going. Now, that's not indicative of how this is going to go, especially against a division team that you're so incredibly familiar with. But if you don't get to Josh Allen, which it's hard too because he's mobile,
Right.
you're going to have a tough time here, and especially your back level is going to have a very tough time here.
He showed his superhuman traits, it felt like last week, in their sort of come from behind, well, not sort of, it was come from behind
Plus,
win that they had at home against the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals didn't exactly have a potent offense in the second half, but still, Josh Allen was able to will that team back and play really well. So I think that that's a really good call out. I think that the matchup that matters for any Bills game this season can potentially involve exactly what you just said. And this one
yeah.
obviously means a lot with Miami needing to be able to get after him, but he is just playing at such a high level right now. He's always going to be the major factor for whatever game the Bills are playing. I'm going to switch to the opposite side of things. I'm going to go with the the Miami Dolphins wide receivers versus the Bills secondary. And this again, we might be starting off with a duh here, but it's a little bit deeper than just the fact that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are good because they are, and we know that Miami wants to be explosive. We'll see exactly how much of a mismatch they could be with Raheem Mostert now out. Maybe Devon Achane is out as well. We'll see. But when you look at how the Bills played last week, they played a lot of two high coverages. This was a team that wanted to have two safeties deep at all times. And I think the Cardinals were sort of able to attack it better in the first half. And then that really limited the explosiveness of them in the second half. Kyler really did not attempt very many passes at all deep down the field on this Bills secondary because they were playing much more conservative. They had the two safeties deep, and they were basically they were daring them to beat them underneath. And they were trusting that they were going to be a team that could rally to the ball and tackle well. When you look at the Bills defense last week, only 4 completions of 10 or more yards. That was tied for the second fewest in the league last year, and had 0 deep throw attempts. So like plays that were not just beyond 10 yards, beyond 20 yards, 0. That's how good they were playing in that two high shell. On the flip side, Tua Tagovailoa, 5 completions of over 20 yards or more last week against the Jags. So to me, that's sort of a which one is going to prove to be more powerful? Is it the Bills and how I don't what conservative always kind of like sounds like a negative word, but that's not really what I mean here. The structure of how well they play too high and
Yeah.
don't let quarterbacks really target things deep, or is it going to be an offense that is predicated around being extremely explosive? So I think that that is a big time matchup that matters as well. What about a plus factor here in this one for you?
Yeah, and now I'm going to go to the Bills' offense side of things, and I'm going to say either Dalton Knox or Dalton Kincaid. Miami has the second worst coverage grade versus tight ends. They did last week,
Mm-hmm.
and Knox only had 1 catch on 2 targets last week, but it went for 23 yards. And Kincaid only had 1 catch on 2 targets. It went for 11. So you have these tight ends that are capable of these explosive plays, and that can be potential a field mover for the Bills' offense, especially as these younger receivers and new receivers are kind of gaining their footing with Josh Allen and they're developing that rapport. Josh Allen already has his rapport with his tight ends, and they're really good pass catching tight ends on top of that.
Right.
Combine that against a defense that just isn't equipped to really handle these guys. And I think that could be a recipe for disaster. Again, going back to what I was saying before, especially if you don't put pressure on Josh Allen and he has the opportunity to get the ball out and wait a little while for his tight end routes to develop.
I'll echo you with the plus factor of Dalton Kincaid. He's somebody who I was pumping up big time as we were going into the season. And I thought that he would be a major player in this offense. And last week they got the win. And so, kudos to them. They moved the ball how they needed to. Keon Coleman already proving that he's a viable part of this offense. Khalil Shakir getting in the end zone. Mac Hollins scoring that first touchdown for them. So we saw some of the wide receivers that we said all offseason needed to step up. We saw them step up, but I was surprised that it came at the expense of Dalton Kincaid not really having a great game. It was 2 targets for him, 1 reception, 11 yards, a lot less than people were projecting, certainly for an opening game for him. But he played 88% of the snaps. So he was still out there a lot. They just didn't happen to throw the ball to them. And I think it's a really good point that you made. A Miami team that particularly struggles with covering tight ends. Is this the matchup where we see Dalton Kincaid come out, right? Is this all right, well, week 1, it was quieter than we thought it was going to be, but now it's more towards the expected of a breakout season that we had for him. I'm very curious to see if that's going to be the case.